Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sippin T with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z.
What's up?
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. Let's see. This weekend or this week, I've been
Hmm.
planning and getting my doomsday preparations together because the world is on fire.
Yes, it is.
And I probably won't survive in a zombie apocalypse anyway, but at least I can
Uh-huh.
try. So
Yeah.
I am getting, a package together. I was having this conversation with a friend of ours, and I was like, you know what? For all the things, the benefits that I've received from living in this area in the DMV,
Uh-huh.
the one the biggest con of living here is that if there ever was a nuclear war, we be toast. Because this is one of the
Toast!
cities that would
Yes.
go up in flames.
Yes. That is correct,
So,
unfortunately.
yes, living in middle America probably is the way to go.
Safe. Safe. It's pretty safe out there. Yeah, because that's exactly how that transpired,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Hmm.
on 9/11.
Yeah,
So,
it's DC, New York, and California. They will take that
yeah.
whole West Coast out.
Pretty much.
So,
My parents were like, "So where are you?" And I'm like, "Does it matter?"
right.
But at that time, my office was right down the street from the White House. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I get it. But
Yes,
now we
because a
just
lot of
work
us
from
lived
home.
through that
Yeah,
already. Yeah. So, but
exactly,
so let's
exactly.
just go right into it because we have quite a bit to cover today. The tea of the day. Wait till y'all hear this tea of the day. We are experts on what we are about to drop
Talk
and talk
about
about. With the tea that's on the table today, we are definitely experts of. Okay,
yes.
and what we're about to tell you, you absolutely need to talk to your doctor because the tea on the table today will absolutely affect any medication that you are taking. Trust and
Indubitably,
believe.
indubitably.
It will impair your shit.
For show, for
So
show.
go ahead and tell them that what we
All right,
drinking.
all right. So we all love tea here, and of course we do know, and we strive to make sure the tea that you consume makes us feel better. It can warm your heart, soothe the soul, but sometimes tea ain't enough.
No.
Cause with Z talking about doomsday prepping, right? All the stuff that we done been through already, and it's about to be March. It's just and what did you say last week? We take us out the group chat. We don't
Yes.
want to be in the group chat for certain things anymore. So sometimes you just need something with a little kick. So here comes the Empress Gin. We bring you Empress 75. It's a cocktail made for celebrating. Whatever it is. If it's Tuesday, you can celebrate. Because the way things are going in Doomsday, we might just need to celebrate Tuesday. Just saying. The Empress 75 is sparkling, effervescent, and deliciously sippable. This sounds like an outside patio beverage.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as a graduated mimosa. I like that, and I do have some prosecco downstairs
Yes.
in my fridge on tap. Pairs well with fresh salads, bright lemon, watermelon, a sophisticated backyard cookout dishes. So I foresee this happening on our patio.
Yes,
Z.
it's delicious. If you have ever had a French 75, it's pretty much
Ooh,
just a French 75. But if you know Empress Gin, it's purple. So it
right.
just gives it a little
That
more of a
extra
girly zhuzh.
zhuzh.
Yes, yes,
Zhuzh. Okay, so
yes,
I will be adding it to the repertoire for our
yes,
outing on the lanai.
yes.
Yes, so it's 1.5 ounce Empress 1908 Skiwi gin, 3/4 fresh lemon juice, ½ ounce simple syrup, sparkling wine with a lemon twist. So you're gonna shake the ice, shake on ice, strain it into a chilled flute. So you can make it fancy, y'all. Go ahead and make it fancy. Top it with sparkling wine and garnish with a lemon twist.
Yes.
I will be adding this in addition to the lemonade whiskey, in which I was introduced to this weekend. So we will be adding that to the menu for the summertime.
Yes. And
Refreshing.
I'm going to tell you, without a doubt, use fresh lemon juice. Do not
Ooh.
use the bottled lemon juice. The fresh lemon juice to me is what makes the flavor. the flavor. If you use just the regular lemon juice, it's gonna be a little too tart. Because
Oh,
lemon is already tart, but I don't know, lemon juice
right.
in the bottle tends to be a little tartar in my opinion because they
Mhm.
have to
More
do stuff to
concentrate.
preserve. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna tell you to just get you a lemon squeezer and just get you some real lemon juice, okay? Because that's what's gonna give it it's gonna give it what it's supposed to give.
Mm.
I drank
Won't
this last
disappoint.
night. Yes, it won't. I drank this last night, a little bit of it because I'm really
Mhm.
watching. I have to watch my sugar intake, and alcohol does have sugar. So
It
I know
does,
y'all don't like to
y'all.
think that, but it does. Um,
Just go with straight
Yes, yeah. So I've
everything.
had I've had to watch what I drink, and I'm actually doing research now on if you are having issues with like insulin resistance and stuff like
Mhm.
that. If you want to drink, what are the things to drink outside of like if you want an
Mhm.
alcoholic beverage? Um, what are the things, the liquors to go to, and which ones are the ones to stay away from? I
Mhm.
know Bethany Frankel, she has a line, one of
Yeah.
the real OGs of the Real Housewife
Yes.
franchise, and
Yes,
it's like
yes.
skinny
Skinny
girl.
girl
Yeah.
cocktails. She has a whole
Yeah.
line of different skinny girl cocktails.
Yeah. So I mean
Some of them are quite tasty.
they are. Some of them are.
Mhm.
So that might be. She even has, I think, skinny girl wine as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
So if you're
And
someone like me,
snacks. She just recently branched
oh,
out into
okay,
like food
a bitch
things.
got fancy.
Yes, she did. I
Okay,
ain't
well,
mad at her.
I ain't
She
mad
got
at that
her
either.
show got canceled and she expanded. I
Right.
liked her show. I thought it was entertaining.
I never really watched her show, but I was like, oh, products. Oh no, she does because she has popcorn too. She has skinny girl
Yeah.
popcorn because I've had that
Mhm.
before. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So um, you know, mm, yeah, drink it. It's good.
We're gonna get
Um,
together a whole skinny girl menu so you can drink and feel good about yourself.
you know what? We were talking about that. I think
Mhm.
soon we're going to try to find a nutritionist
Yeah.
that is specifically geared to African American
Mhm.
women and women of color to
Mhm.
kind of help us figure out what we can eat and what we should and should not eat.
Right. And
I
what we're
think that's
predisposed
important.
to.
Yeah, I think that's important. We're gonna
Yeah.
if anybody listening, if you know a nutritionist who deals well, I won't say exclusively, but may specifically assist African American women and women of
Mhm.
color with their diet
Yeah,
and health
considering
choices.
our historical or cultural diet
Yeah, please let us know.
leanings, that would be good.
Yeah. So let's get into some hot tea. I don't have a lot. Kanye is pretty much all because of this Ukraine situation that I am going to talk about briefly.
Uh-huh.
But Kanye is just Kanye still. And the hot topic, the hot tea
Tea, right.
theme here is there could be one, but there also could be another. Or
Mhm.
you can feel one way about something, but also feel another way about that same thing. Um, and what I mean by that is, I have so far two of the episodes, I guess, of the documentary that Kanye has
Mhm.
have dropped, and you know, I thoroughly enjoy pre crazy. No, don't say that. Let me
Mhm.
reset and recheck and check myself because not crazy. I've I have thoroughly enjoyed old Kanye.
Mhm.
There was a
Pre-Donda.
moment when he switched. I
Mhm.
don't like when he switched. I like pre Kanye. So pre old Kanye, with graduation
Mhm.
and late registration and college dropout and even 808 heartbreaks and my dark twisted fantasy. I think up until my
Mhm.
dark twisted fantasy, that was the last time I really enjoyed Kanye. Okay.
Fair enough.
Um, and this documentary really does show like how he came to be, and I do see myself empathizing with the young Kanye,
Mhm.
the graduation Kanye, the late registration Kanye, the college
Right.
dropout Kanye. I really do see myself empathizing a lot with him, because I see where his struggles are, and I have the sympathy for him because I know where this is about to take him, like his
Right.
mother's death and how that had a huge
Change
effect on him.
and impact.
His mother's relationship definitely helped him, but I think hurt him, right? In a
Mhm.
sense that she poured a lot of life and a lot of love into her son.
Mhm.
She made sure that he always felt, special and important. But I don't
Insecure.
think when yes, but I don't think that when it was necessary, she gave him that real tough love, right? When he
Mm-hmm.
was acting a little, when he was getting a little off the rails, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there were tougher conversations that she could have with him, because
Right.
I feel like there are a lot of parents out there who poured a lot of love into their children, who made them feel special, who made them
Mm-hmm.
feel as though they are the best things in the world, but never really set them up for what happens once they step out that door. And
Right.
Chris Rock, in one of his comedy series, talked about this a lot. Like he told his daughters, yeah, mom and dad, we think you're important and special and you're the best thing ever. And our family members think that. But once you step out into the world, these people don't give a shit about you.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
think you're just as
facts.
special because they've been teaching their kids the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is one of the things that me and my husband had this conversation on, and there were some points where we didn't agree totally.
Uh-huh.
I feel like, yes, it is important to pour life and love and celebrate who your child is, but it has to be a balance
Agreed.
because some of these children grow up to be very self entitled and don't
Yes.
handle disappointment very well.
At all, I think goes at the participation,
Yeah, the
entitlement.
participation awards, like you
Mm-hmm.
just got an award for showing up. And I think that that's a dangerous thing.
Yes,
And I see that happening a lot with Kanye.
I can see
Um,
that.
so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, like, if you ever, I don't like using the term sociopath, psychopath,
Mm-hmm.
narcissist. I don't like using those terms to describe people all the time because I'm not a clinical therapist. And a lot of times, not a lot, those things have to have a clinical diagnosis. And
Right.
I think us as a society just uses those terms because it's like the catchphrase. When somebody's acting some way, you just grab the first phrase you think is attached to that person.
Right.
However, I will go out on a limb to say that Kanye probably has been clinically diagnosed as being a narcissist.
I
And this
could see
man
that.
has terrorized his ex-wife, well, his wife, soon to be ex, and her new boyfriend on social media for the world to see. She
Mm.
filed something recently that asked the judge to please just grant her a divorce or please just at least say that she's single and they can work out all the other details of their divorce because it's causing his social media attacks on her are causing her emotional distress.
It's a ridiculous,
It is very
unfortunately.
ridiculous. And then I saw this man literally file a document that said, "Oh, well, how does she know that I'm doing this with
What?
social media posts? She needs to take screenshots and proof that this is actually Kanye posting this social media stuff." Now, if you've been following this, you saw Kanye West with a sign that says, "I'm actually posting this. My account did not get hacked." So for this man to then try to gaslight this woman
Uh,
and try to make her believe that what she's seeing is not true is disgusting.
it's beyond.
It is disgusting. And if you're out there laughing at this shit and thinking that it's funny, it's
It's
not.
terrorizing. This is an issue that happens on multiple levels,
Multiple levels.
on to multiple people, and
Multiple
people see
levels.
this and think it's okay and continue to perpetuate it,
Yes. This
terrorize,
actually,
thereby terrorizing her and her children.
yes. This actually is making my blood boil right now because I think about this past week and the things that black women on social media, living in the social media platform, have had to endure.
Mm,
Thinking about Megan Thee Stallion. Now, nobody really knows what happened that night that
mm-hmm.
Megan got injured. Nobody but
Right.
the people in that car. It was her bodyguard, Tory Lanez, her best friend, who's no longer her best friend, and Megan
Mm-hmm.
Thee Stallion. The facts are that we know she was shot
Correct.
in her foot. How that transpired, that is something that nobody knows. They
Correct.
have what do you call it? They had the a shell of fragments, bullet fragments
Right.
from her foot. We
Mm-hmm.
know this. That's what was in the medical reports, right?
Right.
However, we don't know what transpired. She feels that Tory Lane shot her. Her best friend didn't shoot her, and her bodyguard didn't shoot her. So logically, her next thought is it had to be him. She knew
Correct.
he had a gun on him. It has been determined that it was his gun.
Correct.
So, just logic, from a logical standpoint, it
Hmm.
is okay for her to believe that he shot her. The fact that this man has then gone to social media to try to make her feel like her belief is wrong, that she got hurt, but it ain't my fault. That, oh, it's really because she just mad because I was fucking her and her friend. Excuse my language. And that's what this is all about. The
What?
gaslighting of black women when they're going through trauma.
Mm.
And I
Yes.
know how I led this off. I'm not calling Kim K black, although she wants to be black. What I'm saying is that just shows me like the level of toxicity that exists in the social media world,
Unacceptable.
specifically with women. Well, I'll say exclusive, like I'll say when it comes to women, specifically when it comes to black women,
Hmm.
is abhorrent. It is just terrible.
Beyond.
And you cannot have trauma as a black woman and feel safe and feel
No.
like you have outlet and feel like there are people who really love you
Care.
and
Hmm.
support you and care. And even if you decide to take a mental break, a social media break, and don't look at what's going on, the conversations are still being had. And so it's
Hmm.
going to still affect you in one way or the other. And I just say that we may find these situations hilarious because we as black people, and this is going to lead me into the Ukraine thing,
Hmm.
we as black people tend to try to find the humor in
Everything.
the chaos, but this is not funny. The
Agreed.
terrorizing of women on social media is disgusting.
When did
It's
it become
disgusting
okay
because these
and
people have no
normalized?
freaking home training. It's disgusting. I'm just appalled by it to the point where I've decided I'm going to take a social media break. So the hot tea is going to come from somewhere. It ain't going to come from
It
me
probably won't be for
specifically.
me because
I'm glad to come from
I'm a little
Barbara
disconnected.
because yes.
I'm a little disconnected from
Hmm.
social media lately
It's just
because of
I
those said stressful things that you're
yes,
just like, what in the world? And sometimes, you definitely need to do that,
you
but
have to.
because it's an assault on your psyche.
It really is. Um, I will say also that my air just kicked in, so sorry if you hear this. um, this goes into Ukraine. Everybody knows what's happening in Ukraine. If you haven't, you're living under a rock. And I'm not going
Yeah.
to go too much into it because this has also been a very source of anxiety for me. But two things can be live in the same realm. And what I mean by
Hmm.
that is you can feel empathy for the Ukrainian people and still hold them accountable for the way that they are treating African students who are in the region who are trying to get out and they're not allowing them to get out because they are
Mm,
black and they're letting all of the Ukrainian people out first. And when they are in line to get to the border so that they can get to safety, they are forcing these students to the back of the line
mm,
because of the color of their skin. That's number one. You can have empathy for some of the Ukrainian people and still say that it is terrible and deplorable as how they're treating African students. Okay?
yes.
That's number one. Number two, you can have empathy for what's going on in Ukraine and still understand and be wary and scared of how this is going to directly impact you. I read this
Mm,
blog where this, and it came from white privilege. This is how I just know. She was
mm,
saying, "Oh, why are you all making fun and having and making jokes about the war? Talking about how black people are using this as a source of comfort for them, like
hmm.
jokes to comfort them through this. And all you guys care about is yourself. What about the Ukrainian people who are trying to escape? You guys are worrying about gas prices. Yeah,
What?
damn right I'm worried about gas prices. Because here's the thing. We live comfortably.
Right.
We live comfortably. We make
Hmm.
good money. But $4 for a gallon of gas is still going to have a huge
Yes.
impact on our household, right? So think about the people who do not live as well as we do,
Mm,
who have to decide, am I going to pay $4 for a gallon of gas so I can get to work so that I can have money to feed my family? Or am I going to stay home and use that money to pay my bills? That is a real
Right.
conversation a lot of people are going to have to start to have. And
Yep.
we know if gas prices are going up, everything's going up. Because how the
Of
hell you think this
course.
shit that we need is going to get to this country? On planes,
Girl.
planes, cargo ships. Shit needs fuel to get to us.
Right. Inflation is already ridiculously up in the time frame, in the
So you,
short time frame we've had.
yes, so you absolutely can feel empathy for the Ukrainian people and still say this shit is going to have me all the way effed up. And I wish that
Hmm.
people would stop trying to police the way that people deal and process with trauma and world events. Black people have gone through so much that
And
all
still
we
do.
still do. And we use humor as a way to process our trauma. It is
Exactly.
something that we have to do. And
You.
yes, we understand what's going over there, but our cities have been bombed, okay? Because if you lived in
Repeatedly.
Philadelphia in the 80s, you know that a whole ass mayor dropped a whole ass bomb on a damn city block.
Mm.
And these United States of America. That ain't something that they always teach you in history class.
Well,
We are under attack by police every freaking day.
you can't go anywhere without being watched and knowingly. It's just turning into the regression of the societal impact of where race is right now has regressed so much
Yes, it has. And
to
ooh, my blood is boiling. I'm going to say this last thing and we can go into a break and then start with the podcast topic, which we
hmm
didn't even talk about, just guilt and shame. I'm going to say this. You know, we live in a world where there's a bill that has passed where you cannot, don't say gay. You are not allowed
mm,
to have a conversation about what is happening in the LGBTQIA community. You can't talk about somebody's sexual orientation. It cannot be brought up. You have another state that has passed a bill that if you have a transgender child that has gone through any type of surgery, that they can call child protective services on your ass and you can get arrested for this shit.
wow.
Do you understand? And I'm telling you, go and look at the 9 stages of genocide. Okay?
Mm,
For the LGBTQI community, they're on step number 7.
mm,
Step number 9 is complete annihilation. They're on step number 7. And so you may not think that that means anything to you, but who do you think they're coming
mm.
after next?
Well,
Because it's coming. We got red line districting happen all over.
all over, all
Over. You
over.
think this next election gonna be a breeze? It's not, boo. Let me tell you.
Hell to the no. It is
But
going
that's
to be a whole cluster. You know what?
but that's it. I'm off my rant.
So we're gonna take a break, and then we'll be right back with our topic and tea time segment. And we are back. So, as we mentioned, this episode has been is going to be about guilt and shame. In the last couple episodes, we've talked about accountability and the importance of taking ownership and responsibility when our actions don't just affect ourselves but others around us. And how pervasive those actions can be. But that accountability, guilt, and shame are often intertwined. And we kind of touched upon that in the past few episodes and trying to discern what's different, how are they connected, and then how do they manifest in our everyday lives.
Right. We did say that this is a podcast, talking about guilt and shame. Sometimes we look at those things as the same, and you're going to find out that guilt and shame are not the same.
Hmm.
They're like shame is like the evil cousin of guilt, okay?
That's lurking in the background.
Yes. Shame and guilt are quite different emotions. Guilt feelings arise when we feel we did something bad. Shame
Hmm.
is believing we are bad. So you usually say, I am bad, I'm no good, I'm unlovable when you're starting to feel those feelings of shame. And then
Hmm.
when we hold deep shame, we are at risk for a lot of psychological conditions, depression, addiction, violence, etc., right?
Hmm.
So BetterHelp.com gave us an example to kind of give you a better understanding of this shame versus guilt dynamic. So imagine you become distracted while driving. You don't notice the light turning yellow, so you run a red light and you almost
Mhm.
hit someone. If you feel guilt, you might say, oh man, I really messed up. I really messed that up. I should be more careful.
Mhm.
I should work on not getting distracted. That's the guilt. Shame is actually going to be the thing that's more toxic and harmful to your self esteem. So, shame is going to sound like, oh man, I'm an awful driver. I'm a horrible person. I should not be allowed to drive.
Mhm.
I should not even be allowed to go to work. That's the shame. So,
Mhm.
we're going to dive a little deeper into these because these are very difficult human emotions. So, when we're looking at guilt, guilt is, like we said, a feeling you get when you did something wrong or you perceived you did something wrong.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you're talking about a guilt prone person, someone who's just prone to guilt, we all know these people. When you hold somebody who's guilt prone accountable, you're going to likely, they're going to likely feel more of a sense of responsibility for what they did. They're going to have some empathy toward the one that they've impacted or hurt. And if anger arises, they manage it in a way that does not lead to avoiding the responsibility. And I think that that's
Mhm.
important.
That's key.
That's very key, right? Because I
The
think shame,
avoidance.
yeah, there's a lot of avoidance in shame, right?
Mhm.
But with guilt, you feel guilty, but you don't avoid taking responsibility for the action.
Mhm.
So the guilt prone person is apt to lean into repairing the hurt and then restoring the connection of the one that they slighted, right?
Mhm.
It can occur. Guilt comes sometimes without even people knowing that you did something, right? So, like in the example that we just gave from BetterHelp.com, you were driving a car, you almost
Mhm.
hit someone. The only person that knows that you almost hit someone, let's say, is you. Maybe the person you almost hit didn't even know that they almost got hit, right?
Right.
Oh, guilt, you could feel guilty for that and no one know what the action was, right? So there's going to be no fallout other than making you feel that you need to treat the other person better going forward. And you
Mhm.
may try to remedy the wrong. So in that car situation, okay, I'll be more careful. I'll be more attentive. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to drive a little slower, right? Those are going to be immediate responses to feeling guilty to correct the behavior. So, guilt is generally associated with actions and possessions. We feel guilt when we have harmed someone or when we're not proud of our actions. We recognize that our actions can make others feel physically and emotionally bad. And in our compassion, we feel guilt and want to make it right. As we mature, we might also feel guilt because we have something that others don't have. So, as long as your emotions aren't extreme, this is a healthy side of guilt. It can prompt you to correct imbalances. So, in a situation where there are some people who may say, I feel guilty for worrying about the price of gas when these people are helpless and defenseless in Ukraine.
Mhm. Right. And that's definitely a way to, I think, a great way to discern which is which. And then when you figure out what that guilt is, how do you work through it? You have to distinguish between the action of it and yourself, and make a clear distinction about what you did versus who you are. And I think the example that Z gave earlier clearly delineates what you did versus who you are as a person, and not putting that on yourself.
Right.
And then if you do, once you figure that out, we talk about accepting responsibility for what was done. How do you make amends if you need to rectify and reconcile your actions with somebody? And then look at the ways that you can address it. Can you take a problem solving approach to it? Can you figure out there's different ways, different choices, or better choices that I should have made? And then what do you do if it's something you can't accept? You know, then sit back and look at it and say, this is an opportunity. Could this be an opportunity to lead for greater change, and makes me become a better person and be more mindful of how I'm handling the choices that I'm making? And then once you figure that out and you've worked through that guilt, then you can step aside and look at what is shame in relation to the guilt that you may be feeling. And you're looking at it as shame is feeling when your whole self is wrong, and it may not be so, connected to a specific act or event. This is like an overarching, shameful, continuous feeling that is not necessarily prescribed to one thing. One event may have triggered it, but it still is remaining. and it can be attached to addiction because a lot of individuals that are addicted feel shame about going back and getting the product or whatever your addiction is. It could be addicted to shoes, it could be addicted to food or what have you. It just doesn't have to be substances, but there's a different way that you feel shame about keep going back and keep going back. That's maintaining your addiction. And this was a good one that you mentioned earlier as far as it being the toxic cousin of guilt. I think that was a really good relation because you look at how do you hold people accountable? Are there shame prone individuals that react to defensiveness and those people that avoid taking responsibility, they just real defensive. They don't even
Mm-hmm.
stop to think, well, maybe I really had something to do with it, or maybe I should look at this opportunity and change it or make amends. But they just, pop off and
Mm-hmm.
deflect. Those folks. We all know those. And then,
Mm-hmm.
according to Brenna Brown, shame can be described as intensely painful experience, feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. So it goes much deeper, and something we've experienced, done, or failed to do makes us unworthy of connection, which is why this can lead to depression and just an overarching feeling of I'm not the best person. And, you know, even though you may try to take accountability for something, you may still feel bad about it because the shame is still there, even though you may have, in your mind, thought to make amends. And
Mm-hmm.
then, the shame prone person reacts with avoidance, which we just talked about, irritability, they pop off. The people just angry for no reason sometimes, and they just be mad. And you just, well, what the hell happened to you? Or, sometimes it may be that inherently they just feel bad about themselves
Right.
but the entire time. So it comes out, they project whatever they're feeling on other people and it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
But it shows up as, blaming other folks for everything else and not taking accountability for what you have going on because you have shame that is the underlying, I guess, emotion that you have. And that's
Yes.
kind of how sometimes I think everything gets intertwined
Mm-hmm.
because one promotes the actions of another or sustains the actions of another. Because if you're feeling
Yes.
shame, and you haven't addressed it or taken accountability for what may have led to the shame, you can just keep being an asshole and projecting on people
Facts.
just
Facts.
because you haven't dealt with your shit.
Those are facts. And I will say this, one of the things that you and I discussed previously to this is, or prior to this, is like, I know this is a these two feelings are very heavy, right? They're
Hmm.
heavy emotions because I think shame, like we talked about briefly, it can be rooted in like addiction
Hmm.
and like depression and anxiety. The reason why I think you and I have a greater understanding of shame and guilt, maybe more so than a lot of people, is because I think of therapy. Sometimes people aren't going to figure out these emotions without going to therapy. And
Right.
and and caveat, going to therapy and doing the work. It's one thing to go to therapy, but you also have to do the work. A lot of times we go to therapy because of some shame that we're carrying that we don't
Hmm.
even know. And
Right.
and and shame isn't always shame is a dirty word, but it isn't always rooted in like the most deplorable situations.
Right.
A lot of times people feel shame for things that they don't even have responsibility for.
It's
You
something
could
put
be
on them.
right, you could be a rape victim and feel shame
Hmm.
because you feel somehow it was your fault.
Yep.
Abuse, whether it's physical abuse, emotional
Mental.
abuse, mental abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse. A lot of
Hmm.
times victims of those types of situations carry a significant amount of shame with them and they don't understand those emotions and they can't work through them because they haven't gone through therapy. So I just wanted to
Right.
put that out there.
It's important though to understand that and that goes back to understanding the importance of therapy to even acknowledge that that's a place where you can talk about these things.
Right.
Because a lot of times people hold these for their entire lives, and they feel and it puts your life on a trajectory of what you do because you think you've done something wrong and you're holding it over your head and it dictates your actions. It determines how you interact with people. Um, it's just it can really manifest into different ways of how you see yourself. You think you're stupid, you think you're bad. It's like for some folks it may serve as a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mhm.
Once they someone has put shame on them and they
Mhm.
just end up fulfilling what they think that person thinks of them
Yep.
or what they intend in turn feel because they don't think they're worthy, all because of shame and how the accountability was forced on them, which was not their issue at all to handle. And I
Right.
think that happens a lot more than not. And
Mhm.
then that also goes to like, the whole term hurt people
Oh yeah.
type of thing because you haven't taken accountability for something that maybe you don't even need, or you have taken accountability for something that's not your business to take accountability for because people have directed you to do that because they've put that on you, causing you to
Mhm.
have shame and sustain that mindset that, I'm not good enough for this, I'm not worthy, I'm not this, that, and the other. So I'm just going to fulfill that, I guess, portrayal of what people think I am anyway.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's unfortunate that it can just be, it's a cycle, a
Mhm.
vicious cycle. And then how do you get out of that?
Right.
But I think, and that's why I think Z and I always talk about therapy because some of that stuff can be unearthed. Because
Yeah.
trust me, you and your friends, your girlfriends, y'all can talk about certain things. But when it comes to certain parts, you're just sitting there like, I don't know what to tell you at that point.
Right.
You need that professional insight
Yeah.
to kind of work through that.
And there are some tools that you can use if you have identified that this is shame, that the feeling that you're feeling is shame. There
Mm-hmm.
are some tools that can help you until you can maybe get to a situation where you can find the therapy that you need and look
Mm-hmm.
for, or you're ready to do the work
Right.
to process those feelings. Um, and I feel like it's important to focus on shame because it is the one thing that's more troubling than guilt. Like
Yeah.
it eats you alive. A lot of people think, oh, they're so guilty, that's why they're drinking so heavily, or they just have a lot of guilt, that's why they started to turn to drugs. No, that's shame talking. The
Right.
shame is what is forcing these negative actions to occur, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first step is you have to gain awareness of what shame is, what it looks like, and what triggers your own feelings of shame. Because a lot of us are still bringing shame to the. A lot of us are still triggered by some shameful
Yeah.
things in our past, right?
Correct.
And so you have to understand what triggers you and how to work through those triggers. You have to
Mm-hmm.
practice self compassion by reminding yourself that someone out there is going through the exact same thing you are in the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe do something to feel a sense of connection to someone or something else. I'm a big believer of energy. I believe because last week, everybody I
Mm-hmm.
talked to last week, by Thursday, everybody was saying the same thing. I'm like exhausted. It's been too much. This week has been so heavy. And a lot of people couldn't pinpoint what it was. And I think it's because I think collectively the universe, the world, we all had this nervous, anxious energy that we were
Mm-hmm.
putting out. And that nervous, anxious energy
It was a full moon last
shifted.
week too.
Yeah, well, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
It shifted the energy of the entire population. So all of
Mm-hmm.
us were feeling energy, and some of us were feeling energy that we didn't even have ourselves. But I'm like, oh, this week is off.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way. So
And
the
it was
chicken,
22222, which
exact. There you
was a
go.
paradigm shift.
Exactly. So you feel, I say that to say that you can put the positive out there, or you
Mm-hmm.
can feel like somebody else is going through the same thing, and use that energy connection to help you work through whatever it is that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just woo woo juju junk science.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people look at it like that. I'm a
That's not
firm
the case
believer
at
in
all.
that. Right. You have to talk.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. I just thought of
I,
something. Go ahead.
you have to speak life into yourself and love into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're being body shamed, if I saw somebody post something on Facebook saying like a lot of y'all posting y'all 20 years ago pictures definitely don't look like y'all do now. And I'm like, well, why are you shaming people?
People have life has happened.
Right. And somebody who may have done that, it may be feeling really triggered and it's like, wow, now they're looking at themselves like they're not worthy. They don't feel
Mm-hmm.
good about themselves anymore, because you're right. I don't look like I did 20 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm my heaviest self. And now nobody's going to love me because and I don't want to go to these spaces, because if I'm around these people that knew me 20 years ago, they're going to talk about me and talk about how bad I am. And I am bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Projecting
yeah, you have to
fear.
push love into yourself. Speak
Mm-hmm.
life into yourself, and say, I don't give a shit what these people think. Yeah, I may be, and say, I don't give a shit what these people think. Yeah, I may be 50 pounds heavier, but I'm still a bad bitch. You still couldn't pull me. So,
Ah! Ah, and I think it's a double-edged sword in this regard, like where social media can be helpful in some regards because there are sites that definitely pour into you, that have those positive affirmations that help you confirm your joy or your where you are and your worth. And then you can also see people do inspirational things that can be poured into you as well.
mm-hmm,
But like I said, it's a double-edged sword because I know when I post stuff, I mainly post inspirational stuff. And then if I stay on too long, I'll start seeing stuff that's not all that
mm-hmm,
inspirational. So you really have to be very careful with what you're looking at because in the same breath that you see these things that you focus on, that you're the bad chick or whatever it is that can pour into you and speak life into you and help you work through the shame you may be feeling, steer away from the other shit as best as
mm-hmm.
you can because there are things and tools out there that can help you pour into yourself
Absolutely.
and goodness. But once you see, don't go down that rabbit hole.
Do it. And one of the ways you can do that is follow an anti-shaming roadmap.
Hmm.
Name it and tame it. Are we experiencing guilt or shame? What is the feeling that you're feeling right now? Are you feeling guilt or shame? And in the case of body shaming, right? Maybe
Hmm.
at that particular moment in time, you posted a photo and someone was like, damn. Like that was their comment. Damn. Like,
Mm.
but in a bad way, like, woo.
Right.
Like, ooh.
Damn.
And you just ate 2 scoops of I don't know, Rocky Road, or with the old the old the aunties eat butter pecan ice cream. Do they even make butter pecan ice cream
Yeah,
anymore?
girl, they do. Hmm. They
My mom
eat that
used to. Let
butter
me tell you.
pecan to have as a side with their butter pecan pie.
Let me tell you. My mom used to crush some butter. Like butter pecan was the only ice cream that was ever in the house. And butter pecan is. I don't know why people have anything against it, but it is delicious. It is
Really? I've
delicious.
never
Yes.
had it.
It's delicious. But I'm off topic. But let's just say 2 scoops of butter pecan ice cream, and somebody said that. You might feel guilt because you might be like, damn, I just ate 2 scoops of butter pecan ice cream that I shouldn't have had because I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. That's guilt.
Mm,
Shame is, oh my God, look at me. I do look terrible. This is probably why I'm not in a relationship right now. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm disgusting. Look at
mhm,
me. I don't even deserve to be here. That's shame. So you got
mhm.
to name it and tame it,
Right.
right? Acknowledge and accept the shame, and then try your best to step back into guilt. Like, okay, no, 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 we're not doing that. We're
Mhm.
not doing that. Yes, I feel guilty for eating the ice cream, but you know what? I won't. Next time, I only have 1 scoop.
Right.
And
You're
then the
not a
time after
horrible
that,
person
right,
because
I'm
you
not
had
a
ice
horrible
cream.
person. And then the next time I'll have a half scoop. I tried to just go too hard too fast, and that's why I had these 2 scoops.
Mhm.
Like, let's figure out how to get back to guilt, because guilt is easier to deal with.
Mm.
Shame is going to have you feeling extremely terrible about yourself and then cause all different kinds of traumatic responses that you don't want to have.
True. So how do we address these? What are the tools and additional resources that we can help utilize to work through these things? So are you prone to shame and guilt? There's a questionnaire on the American Psychological Association and we'll post a link for you. But some of the questions asked in the questionnaire have been: you give a bad presentation at work. Afterwards, your boss tells you your coworkers it was your fault that your company lost a contract. Good Lord. What is the likelihood that you would feel incompetent? That's a question.
And it goes from not likely to extremely likely. That's
Hmm.
how they score it.
Right. And then the last one, another one is you secretly commit a felony. What is the likelihood that you would feel remorse about breaking the law?
None. None.
None. Zero zilch.
And what? I got away with the crime, bitch. What? No, I'm just. No,
Breaking
I'm
the
just.
law, breaking the law. Who sang that song? Bill, one of those guys, Beavis and Butthead. They used to sing that song. The breaking the law. Breaking
If I got away with it, that's because Jesus allowed it to be.
Jesus. Oh my goodness! And you guys, I mentioned Brenna Brown earlier. She's has a talk that's we need to talk about shame. It's a clip on a TED Talk. We'll post that as well for you to look at. And then there's a book, You Are Your Best Thing: Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience. Tarana Burke, edited by Brenna Brown. Are some resources that we can offer you as you guys are sorting through this and discerning guilt versus shame and giving yourself a break
Right.
and understanding the difference.
And we didn't want to go too heavily into this because, again, these are some emotions that people aren't really, they're familiar with, but they don't understand the depth of what
Hmm.
the differences are for guilt and shame. And I didn't think that I didn't want, and we talked about this, to be a triggering
Hmm.
episode because a lot of the things we're talking about could trigger somebody. Like, well, that's how I feel. And I don't want to like make
Quickly.
anybody feel bad or get start going down a rabbit hole. But we
Hmm.
did want to at least give you surface level information so that if you are someone currently dealing with shame, that you understand that you're not alone and that there
Right.
are tools and resources out there for you to use to help you work through these things, because we don't want another generation, because I think this newest generation, the whatever they are, Generation Z, Generation
Hmm.
Apocalypse, I don't know what we calling these folks.
Not Generation
I don't know
Apocalypse.
what we calling these folks. But whatever this generation is, they seem to have the key to unlocking a lot of trauma.
Hmm.
But we have to do a better job of helping them and helping you navigate through some of that. Because
Agreed.
everybody's experiences are different, but a lot of us are dealing with some of the same things.
Hmm. Across the board.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes. So, all right,
So
we're going to take a quick break and come back with our last sip of the day. And we are back. This is the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama. So I'm going to give you two quotes. I'm not going to go deep into the quotes because there's something that I forgot to do at the beginning of this that we're going to do during this segment. My bad. But okay, if you put shame in a petri dish, it needs three ingredients to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. If you put the same amount of shame in the petri dish and douse it with empathy, it can't survive. And I don't really think that there needs to be any explanation for that. We talked about being
hmm
empathetic and being kind to yourself. So if you have a lot of shame and you douse it with empathy and you douse it with love and self compassion, it cannot live, it cannot thrive. So that's all that needs to be said about that. Now, that's attributed to Brem Brown. Guilt is just as powerful, but its influence is positive, while shame is destructive. Shame erodes our courage and fuels disengagement. And that's also attributed to Brem Brown. So I think those are two good quotes. We'll put those out as well to
hmm
just help you navigate these feelings in the sea of emotions when it comes to guilt and shame. So your hood Dalai Lama forgot something, and that was I posted to our social medias a ask us anything story. And we did get some questions, and I'm really excited about that because I ask questions and y'all Negroes don't say nothing. Y'all just don't have any questions, and I know y'all do. So
Appreciate y'all.
appreciate y'all. So one of our first questions was from your silly husband. And I
Yes.
told him, I said, scram, get out of here. But I am going to put him on his question out there for the people. And he asks, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? I don't know.
At all.
I'll say
According to the
three.
commercial, three.
Yeah, three. One,
Three.
two,
Two.
three.
Three. Exactly. Okay, Mr. Al. Three. Three.
So there you go.
Oh, yeah, that's a funny one.
Another question came from PH Diva 0618. I ain't putting people's real names out there because I know y'all may not want people to try to find you on the internet, but I guess I
Hmm.
put your handle out there so they may try, but that's okay. Somebody asked, can we have them on the show to talk about maternal health in a black woman? Absolutely, we will.
Absolutely, we will.
Yes, we are
And this
working
said
through that.
person is a expert in this arena.
Yes, so we're gonna have an expert now. Y'all can just be talking, listening to us.
Right. We have some experts.
Yes,
We
and
got you,
we got
PhD
you.
diva.
We're reaching out to you soon. And
Yes.
the last question is really good, and I'm saving it for last because it requires us to have conversation around it.
Mm-hmm.
Your biggest regret.
Mm.
What is your biggest regret?
Great
Professionally,
question.
personally, I'm going to say for me, this can cover both professional and personal. Is
Mm-hmm.
not knowing my worth sooner.
Ding, ding, ding.
That covers both my personal and professional
Mm-hmm.
experience. And it's something that I'm teaching my daughter to really understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that, and we talked about this earlier, there's a difference between constantly telling people you're special, you're great, da 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 da. No, this is about understanding what your worth is, what you bring to the table, and not having boundaries and having standards and not settling or moving the marker for somebody or for some job. You know what your boundaries are. I
Mm.
have a boundary. I'm done it. I start my workday at 6:30. I'm only required to give you 8.5 hours. At three
Mm.
o'clock, I am done. You can put whatever meeting you want to put on my calendar after 3 o'clock. I will not be
Mm.
there.
Ding. I'm
Now,
working on that.
if there is something that you need, you understand this, and you need to have a conversation with me before. Can you make it to this meeting on this day at this time? Because we need to discuss this. But I'm only required to give you 8.5 hours. So if that is something you require me to be somewhere after 3, you need to have that conversation before you put that meeting on my calendar.
Hello.
I set boundaries for myself. And why? Because from 3 to 5 is the only time I get really to myself to
Mm.
decompress and do any additional meditation, working on myself. Because when my daughter comes home,
Yeah.
it's a wrap.
Charlie
It's a
got
wrap.
plans.
It's a wrap. My husband is still working for
Mm-hmm.
those 2 hours. So this is the time for me to take for myself. I refuse to bend that boundary. I know my worth. And I understand that if I consistently do that, you're not going to respect my boundaries going forward.
Mm.
I need that time for myself. Because if you want me to be my best self for you, you got to give me that time to recharge so that I can be that best self for myself.
Hello. Preach. Tabernacle.
Period. And in relationships, you have to do that. If you set
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, you know your worth. You know the type of person you are. I don't care, man or woman. You know what you bring to the table. Do not move the marker just because you found somebody that you think
Mm.
is a good fit. Because if they're a good fit, they're not going to ask you to move any of your markers. They're
That
not going to
part.
cross any of your boundaries.
That part.
I tell you this is not something to do, then don't do it. If you do it, then that's disrespecting me and we don't have anything left to talk about.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying that it's an all or nothing, right? Because there are certain situations that you can work through. What I'm saying is boundaries are important. Know your worth.
Mm.
A lot of us, if as young women and young men,
Don't.
if we knew our worth earlier, a lot of the relationships we found ourselves
Ooh.
in, we would have not found ourselves in.
Our trajectories would have been very different.
Very different. And I'm gonna tell you, this new generation, a generation, I'm calling them Generation Apocalypse. These people understand it, and we need to let them do it. I saw this girl on social media. She's in one of my groups, and sis is living her good life. She's in her late 20s, early 30s. She get flued out every. She getting flued out.
She getting flued
Like
out. Ah, okay.
got her a sugar daddy or whatever he is, and she gets what she wants. She gets flown out. She gets this. She gets that. And there were some older women like, oh, back in my day, that wasn't considered good behavior. You were looked at as Let her live her best life.
She's
She
enjoying the
knows her worth.
life.
If she feels like I want you want to date me, you got to be able to. If I want to go shopping at Chanel, you got to be able to pull out their credit card and do it. If that is what she wants,
Mm,
then you got to come to the table with that. And if you don't,
then don't.
it's
Keep your
simple as
opinions to
that.
yourself. If that's not your lane, stay out of it.
I'm glad you said that. Exactly. Stay out of it. But that's all I got to say. What about you? Your biggest.
Ooh, I would probably be along the lines of that. Um, the worth, and that's for health. That's for relationships.
Mm.
Um, doing what I need to do to make sure that s- certain things with my life, with my health challenges, have happened to me, but there may have been some other things that I could have done to help facilitate me staying healthier
Mhm.
during or sustaining certain things. Maybe I don't know. Um, I would probably have to say that. I think that maybe that traveling more. Um, I mean, I traveled a lot when I was younger,
Mhm.
for sure. But then I was also a workaholic. Y'all know that. I used to work like
Oh
90 hours
yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
So, do I regret that working like that? Yes, because that wasn't a good use of time for my health and my worth of where my health could be, because I know that stress level contributed a lot to the detriment of my health later in life. So, probably that, and save more money earlier,
Mm.
i.e., learn how to invest
Yes.
when I was
Yes.
20.
Yes.
Something, and learn how to do all of that from then and not now. That would probably be one of my biggest regrets. Um, no, and that goes along with worth. That's financial worth. That's emotional worth. That's your health care. Your physical health worth. So I think those all come into play with that.
Well, thank you, MNJ063. You actually gave us something to add into our topic list because when
Yes.
we read that, I was like, this is definitely something to get deeper into. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
probably then one of the questions I'm probably going to post somewhere down the line is what is your biggest regret, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can get a compilation of things that people probably have had regrets about, and we could talk about regret and how to deal with it and how to process it and how to move on, because I think regret is another big thing that people
Mm-hmm.
deal with, and that sometimes goes with shame.
Yeah. Because some
And
people regret nothing,
yeah. Mhm.
and then it adds to their worth and how they
Yes.
approach life. And
Mhm.
then people regret everything, and then it contributes to their shame and how they sustain that their entire life.
Woo! Yes. So, well, that's
So,
it. That's it.
you
That's that.
know,
That's it. Right there. That's it.
mm.
So
So,
that's the
thank
end. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
so, woo, thank y'all for joining us this week on Sippin Tea with Nat and Z. You can follow us on Instagram, Sippin Tea _Nat and Z _pod, and on Facebook, Sippin Tea Nat and Z, to get information on upcoming podcast topics, guests, and news. And again, thanks for listening. Catch us next episode where we talk about staying in your lane. So many different meanings right there. Staying in your lane, y'all. Mm. Enjoy y'all week.